Welcome to the Hey Soul Sista podcast, where Mel Histon will guide you through life's big questions and bring you one step closer to doing this crazy journey as best you can.
Hey Soul Sisters, have you ever wanted to pursue a new passion? Maybe say yes to unexpected opportunities that come your way, embark on a solo journey to a far-off land, or change jobs, or even go in a totally new career direction. It can take courage to try new things, big or small. So we're exploring the transformative power of stepping into the unknown, trying new things, and having the courage to embrace life's adventures. Today in the podcast studio, I have one of my favourite Hey Soul Sista guests and co-hosts with such an adventurous spirit, the journalist, speaker, professional MC, travel adventurer, yogi, and now music festival organiser, Alex Morris. Oh, I love having you in here, Alex. You're such an inspiration because you just live this courageous, adventurous life and you're trying new things and doing new things. And hey, Soul Sisters, we're always wanting, well, I know I am. I'm always wanting to try new things. And sometimes I don't necessarily have the courage or the fortitude to kind of put myself out there or grab opportunities. Sometimes the fear can seep in, but I look at you and I'm like, you are always doing these really amazing, wonderful things in the world. Like you literally just held your first ever music festival.
Yeah, the Carrington Folk Festival. We ended up selling out on the day. So that was I've done smaller gigs before, but that's the biggest gig me and my friend Naomi Jones have ever done. So I'm still coming down from that high. So
so what made you decide to want to run a music festival? Because that's a pretty cool ballsy goal.
Oh well, it is part because I write as well. I kept covering music festivals around Australia. I was getting press passes, and I kept running into Naomi Jones, the musician who I organized this festival with. We kept going to folk festivals in different parts of the country, and we were like, why isn't there one here in Newcastle? Like, there's so much talent and great things about this city. People would definitely love to come. So we said, hey, let's just see what happens. And there was highs and lows. We officially locked in the venue, I think, in late November, early December, and the festival was last week in February 17th, Saturday. So we did a lot in a short period of time, but
yeah, that's not a lot of lead time.
It's not, but I think that's sometimes what you need. I think if you give it too much time, because then when we were trying to work out when to do it, we were also talking about doing it later in the year, and then it becomes I kind of was like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And there are things that we could do better, but ultimately I'm very proud of both of us, and I think that we put a lot of heart and soul into it, and we made enough money to start making plans for next year. So
that is cool, because if you can do a passion creative project and make money, make a profit, that is gold.
Yeah. I still can't believe it. I'm still kind of pinching myself. We're still we're still getting all our invoices paid, so we're still wrapping it up. It is, I would say, touch wood, looking like a pretty cool success for the first time doing something like that. So yeah.
So just think, 5 years time, you might have a massive festival on your hands.
Carrington's going to go off.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I'm so happy for you. And I love this about you. It's so inspiring, because it's really tempting at times for us to keep going in the same direction, staying in our lines, in that little comfort zone box, even when it's not fulfilling our yearning that we have to do something bigger or grateful or more soulful, whatever that is. So, Miss Alex, let's do a little journey into the life of Alex.
How did you
do it? How did you end up this beautiful free spirit that's you've traveled solo via Greyhound bus around the southern states of America?
Yeah.
You just got back from Buenos Aires that you traveled solo around there. You're a journo. You've traveled Australia. You've written around the world. Now you've held a music festival, your very first one. So tell us a bit of a short story of your life and how you ended up a Southern Baptist girl over here in Australia.
Recovering Southern Baptist. Yeah, I was born and raised in West Columbia, South Carolina. It's near Florida, so in the deep south of the United States. Lived there for 18 years. Went to college in Asheville, North Carolina, so another southern state. Got my degree in creative writing. Throughout that time, I also worked as a tour guide. I drove a boat inside a cave in Kentucky. So I was
Is that a cave?
Yeah. Lost River Cave and Valley, Kentucky's only underground tour guide, underground boat tour. Lost River Cave and Valley, Kentucky's only underground boat tour. So had a lot of fun doing that in the summers, and then I got a job in communications at the Wilderness Society in Washington D.C. I did that for a little under a year, and I decided I was about 23, and I was like, this is a very professional big girl job, and I still have a bit of a free spirit in me I want to explore. So I decided to move to Melbourne and become a starving artist. So I moved to Melbourne and became a starving artist. So yeah.
The leap from Washington, D.C. to Melbourne.
Yeah. I sold my car. I had like less than $3,000 in my bank account, and I got a working holiday visa, and I was couch surfing for the first few weeks to find a place to live. I just got a plane ticket. Everyone thought I was a little bit mad, but I don't know. I was like, Australia's like, it's not like I'm not going to a war zone. Like,
yeah.
I hear they're nice.
Yeah. We're lucky we're on an island, so we don't have too much conflict here.
No, yeah. It was pretty. It could have been, I think even going to Europe or something like that, if I didn't speak the language, there would have been a little bit more of a risk involved. But during uni, I studied abroad in Northern Ireland, and I had such a great time just traveling and meeting new people. And I think doing that, I was like, I'll just go to Australia, and they let you work, and I'll just wait tables and write poetry and just like have it. I was working in my office, and you had to wear the office clothes and be on time and do all these like and it was great. It was a good experience, and I learned a lot, but I also was 23, it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, I don't know. And it's funny because I actually remember my boss at the Wilderness Society, one of my bosses saying, I don't know if you're going to come back, Alex. And I was like, I'll be back. And then here I am 12 years later, 12 or 13 years, something like that. I left in 2000 and I came to Australia in 2010. So here we are 14 years later.
14 years later.
There was a bit of back and forth. Like I got a boyfriend who I'm no longer with, and he and I were like kind of back and forth for a little bit, but I've been in Newcastle since 2012. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
So stepping into the unknown.
Yes.
It can be very daunting. How do you cultivate the courage to try new things and embark on your adventures?
I thought that was such an interesting question when you gave it to me. I don't know how I do it, but I guess I find I know myself, and then I get very funny with boredom, like monotony. And I know myself, and if things are too monotonous for too long, I can get into a little bit of like trouble, you know what I mean? It's like idle hands are the devil's workshop. Like I think I have learned that, and that's why COVID was such a hard time for me, because you couldn't do anything. And I did a lot of yoga on the rooftop to try to like be at peace with not going anywhere. And it's, I think there's a lot you could delve into that, but I just have recognized that when I can plan exciting, and even not plan, but say yes to big adventures, I'm a happier person. And just recognizing that feeling of like, antsiness, boredom, discontentment, and trying to grab it and enjoy that we do have this agency to kind of change things, which is kind of part of the reason why I decided to take the buses and the trains through southern United States. I knew it was a bit mad, but I also was like, it kind of terrifies me, so maybe I should explore this.
So tell us about that. What did you do? What did you actually do?
So I decided that I'm from the southern United States, and I have a really love-hate relationship with it. I know why people are critical of that part of the world in some ways, but it's also where I'm from, and there's also a lot of really good people there. I think a lot of people don't know that there's a lot of incredible, kind, generous, hospitable people. And I wanted to go back, but I didn't want to just go see my family, which is what I usually do. I wanted to go have an exploration. And I'm also really passionate about public transportation. I think it's one of those like issues where we can all agree on, like good public transportation is great. It's not controversial. Like if you can take a train somewhere rather than drive and it's easy to do so, you will. So I said, but the public transportation in southern United States is not great at all, as I quickly learned. But I emailed a bunch of bus companies, and I got Megabus. They threw me $100 voucher, which took care of like at least a third of my trip. And then I paid for Amtrak, and I took some Greyhounds. And I just said, I can show you the map of it. I just wanted to do the entire South in like 5 weeks. I started in Texas, went up through Arkansas, Tennessee, then saw my family in Kentucky, then went down to Carolinas, then Georgia, Alabama, had my birthday in New Orleans. So I had a long birthday weekends in New Orleans, and then took the train from New Orleans to Mississippi, and Mississippi to Atlanta, where I flew back to Australia. So it was just like this wild whirl, and all by myself. So it was like this wild whirlwind of an experience. But I did have a lot of friends along the way. So it was like I was able to do it. It didn't break the bank. The flights to the United States were a bit expensive, but to actually do it, I was able to stay with friends. A woman gave me our Airbnb to stay in just because she liked what I was doing. Like people gave me discounts. I don't know, all these things, amazing things kind of happened once I started doing it. And I have a newsletter, and I wrote about it every week. I wrote about what I was doing. So there was also a storytelling aspect. I was interviewing so many different types of people. I interviewed people I met on buses. I interviewed politicians. I interviewed musicians. I talked to a lot of different people along the way. So it was also about just exploring humanity as well.
Did you learn anything about humanity?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I did. And I also just realized what a lucky, fortunate position I'm in to be able to kind of look at something like this as a fun adventure. Like, I definitely, especially in some of the Greyhound, Amtrak is very different from Greyhound, but some of the Greyhound situations, I know there's a lot of poverty, and there's a lot of people who you're like, I'm doing this fun adventure, and they're like, well, I've been waiting for the bus for the past 48 hours, and I do not want to talk to you.
Yeah.
This is not cool for me. You know, I don't have a friend somewhere down the road that can come and get me. So there was definitely like, and I knew this was going to be the case, but when you're sitting there with like people whose phones are dead and they don't have, you're in, like I was in there's a bus station in Asheville, North Carolina, that's absolute joke. So the bus was meant to come at 4 a.m. I'm waiting at a petrol station. The bus doesn't come. The petrol station opens. They make everyone move to the dumpster. There's no water, there's no bathrooms, and they're just people that are just trying, and I knew this was going to be the case. Like I knew it when you say it, but when you're sitting there with them waiting and realizing how abysmal this situation is, you recognize some of your own, my glorified ideas of things and how sometimes I can be so romantic, but there's actually a lot of sadness and poverty in this world. And even by trying to explore it and tell stories about it is a luxury and a privilege. So there was a lot of realizations I had when doing this trip, for sure.
Did you have any fearful moments? I
did. I had, it's interesting because I think in some of your questions, you're kind of talking about trusting your gut and, and how do you jump into these moments? And I think I knew that I was going to be a little bit, it is a little bit dangerous when you're doing stuff like this. You are waiting in dangerous areas. There was at one point in Little Rock, Arkansas, the bus came at 4 a.m. and it's at everyone in Little Rock said that is a dodgy petrol station. You be careful there. They were like, there's a lot of dangerous activity that happens there. So I had to get an Uber from my hostel to the bus station, and I really didn't want the Uber driver just to leave me.
Yeah.
And he was he was kind of like, well, I'm sorry, but so he picked me up. I got there. The bus was like only 10 minutes away, but I was so nervous because so many people had told me like, be careful. And I'm just like, I begged this Uber driver. I said, I'll give you cash. And I think he took a little bit of pity on me, and maybe I was overreacting. That was the other interesting thing, is different people had different opinions about what I was doing. Like at first I thought it was a little risky, but I didn't think it was that risky. But then I went by myself, and my partner didn't love it at all. And he was sending me statistics about crime in different places because he wanted me to be careful. But in doing so, I think that made me overly scared,
like hypervigilant.
Yeah. And so anyway, the bus came and it was fine. But I really appreciated this Uber driver who just waited 10 minutes, even though he didn't have to, because he could tell that I was just like, I don't know. I just wanted the bus to be there. Yeah. And then I will just quickly tell you another story. When the bus didn't come, this was a Greyhound station, when the bus didn't come, and my brother was around actually, miraculously, and he offered to give me a ride to a different city where I could take a train. So my brother pulls up, and I get in the car with him, and there's all these people that aren't riding with my brother that are just waiting for the bus. And a gentleman was like, I need to get to a appointment to see my cardiologist. Can I get a ride with you? And I felt like we should be compassionate and just let him get in the car with us. I was like, my brother was there. There was two of us. I don't know. I felt like it wasn't And I don't know, I felt like that was the compassionate thing to do. And I still don't necessarily regret it. But as soon as he got in the car with us, we were driving about an hour's distance to take him to his cardiologist appointment, we realized that he was very mentally unwell. Oh. So he was he was talking the entire time. He was talking about how people were after him. He was talking about how he was related and connected to these celebrities. He was talking about policemen and guns. It was a very, very uncomfortable ride. My brother drove so fast to get him there. And it was a very interesting learning moment, because part of me feels like, and I had this happen multiple times, like I had people picking me up and wanting to say, oh, I've got people picking me up, I'd like to give you rides. And, you know, it's a hard thing, because you want to protect yourself, but you want to be compassionate. And I was very happy to have him out of the car, to be honest. Yeah. Like, we took him there and I'm glad we did, but I was also, he was not well. And it's
interesting because we're taught to be kind, to be compassionate, to be a good girl. Girls are taught to be a good girl. Girls are taught to, we're conditioned quite often to be people pleasers. And, you know, there's so much talk in the world today. And I get it. The kindness movement, all these different kindness movements, I get it. So, of course, we go, oh, I want to be kind. I want to help this person. And you go, it's a reminder that we need to be careful, because that could have gone badly. And you go, thank goodness your brother was there, because imagine if you just gave the guy a ride.
And I think
it could have.
And I think that's when when you talk about bravery, you don't want to. You have to be cautious. And I think if my brother had not been there, I don't think I would have given him a ride, and I would have felt terrible. I would have probably offered him money or something. But there was another gentleman that the buses systems in the southern United States are just atrocious. So, for example, the bus I rode next to a man from Memphis to Nashville. My mom was picking me up at 11 p.m. in Nashville to drive us back to our home in Kentucky. And this gentleman was trying to go basically in the same direction of us, but he had to take this terrible, like, he basically had 24 more hours of travel, because the public transit system is just such a joke. And I felt so much like it would be so easy for him to get in the car with me and my mom, and we could get him at least part of the distance. And so I had this I felt like if it was my dad or my brother, I probably wouldn't have minded. And I had talked to this man on the bus the whole time. We talked about country music songs we liked. He was clearly going through a hard time. He didn't have a cell phone or anything. He was a nice guy. His name was Ed. And I felt so conflicted, because it was like, and I even actually offered to pay for him to have an Uber to get part of the way, but he didn't want that. And he didn't even ask for a ride. So it's like all of this situation was in my head, but I could not, in good faith, have this man get in a car with me and my mother. Yeah. Like, I just couldn't do it.
Because unfortunately, in the world we live in, we hear a lot of horror stories.
Yeah.
About violence against women.
And I've thought a lot about gender and being a woman doing this trip as well, and how in some ways I think people take pity on you, and I think people are more helpful. I think there are advantages, but I also think that there's a lot of danger as well. It's a really interesting kind of thing to examine, like how I would have done this trip differently if I was a man.
That is very good to think about. That's very thought-provoking. And, you know, and sadly, the kind of world that I work in, helping women who've experienced domestic violence, I'm probably very aware of the violence against women and how prevalent it is around the world.
Yeah. And it's like I feel like I make a tougher judgment call. And I hate that, because I know there's a lot of good, kind men out there, and I hate, it's a thing I thought about a lot, and how how you can be compassionate for different types of people. And I do think I was in some ways more danger, but I do think people were kinder to me. Yeah. I think people were kinder to me because I was a woman. I think people trusted me more if I sat down beside them and talked to them. I thought a lot about that dynamic. So I'd like to write more about that as well. So.
And, you know, Alex, but you're somebody who has a lovely vibe around you. Like, you have a really lovely high energy vibe, which is beautiful. So I can imagine that a lot of people would feel comfortable with you to sit and have a conversation with you.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you one more story. So when I actually rode buses in Memphis, like in the inner city buses, and that was so fascinating, because there's a lot of poverty in Memphis at the moment, and also a lot of crime and violence, and they're actually taking down the bus stations because people are sleeping in them. So like actually getting on a bus, just like a bus, just not like a long distance bus, just to ride 10 minutes was a bit of an effort. But there was this woman named Wanda who picked me up when I got on the bus, and I was telling her about my trip, and she was in her, I think she's in her, I don't know, she was a little bit older. She said, I'm a blessed, beautiful Black woman, and I just appreciate every day. And we really connected. And she said, I told her about this trip, and she said, I could tell she thought maybe I was a little bit crazy, but she said, you've got a real nice personality. I think you're going to make it. And I got a photo of her as well, Wanda. And I thought about that a lot because I also, in your questions, like, I do think that when you try to be open and positive and embrace things, for the most part, it has worked out quite well for me. I know that I could, something terrible could happen tomorrow, but I do think that there is a little bit of just trying to be open and embracing and giving people the benefit of the doubt. I do think that is a huge part of living a meaningful life and taking on adventures and stuff like that. You have to find a way to trust people.
Want to save your soul? Review us on Apple Podcast.
What about trusting your gut?
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, when we gave that gentleman a ride that was mentally unwell, that was really interesting because I felt like because my brother was there, it was going to be fine. So I didn't examine my gut feelings too much. And I think that, I don't know, I've been thinking about intuition and trusting your gut a lot and what that even means. But I do think that when I was traveling and there was no one around that I knew and I was not relying on anyone, I was a little bit more cautious.
Yeah.
So I think that in general, it's good to consult with people you trust when you're trying to decide what your gut is saying. I don't know, Mel. It's a really tough one about trusting your gut because I think for the most part, you have to trust your instincts, but I also can tell you of situations where I trusted my gut too much, or maybe I should have trusted my intuition more. So I think that's a loaded question. But I mean, I came out of it unscathed and fine, and I met new friends, and I met people who signed up for my newsletter and are reading my story. But I had it was interesting. On my very last trip, I was taking the train, the MARTA in Atlanta, from my aunt's house. I stayed with her to the airport, and I did have a bit of I'm pretty sure what I saw was and I guess just a warning that a man did expose himself, like not to me. He was in between trains. I didn't really see it, but it was just a really not what you wanted to see at the end of a really, I'd had mostly pretty good experiences. And then there was this last experience literally on my way back to Australia, like the last stop I saw that happen. And I kind of thought about, had that happened on the very first day of my trip, it would have put me in a very negative spot. But because it was kind of the last thing I saw, I was able, it shouldn't have happened. And it was, of course, no, that should never happen. But I felt like I was a little bit tougher.
Do you think it was also the reminder of going, okay, girl, you've just had this amazing adventure traveling around. Just a reminder, not everything is going to be amazing all the time.
Exactly.
Just a reminder.
And just remember that, there's bad things happen. Bad things happen. And I think no matter what, if you're planning a festival or you're doing anything, if you think that everything's going to be perfect, you're delusional. You have to be prepared for negative things. And that's part of the journey.
Yeah. Do you think of yourself as courageous?
I don't know. It could be dumb. I just know that if I don't, I think I get antsy. I have a lot of energy, and I like to look for exciting opportunities. So I think,
But you say that, and I love that. But also, it takes courage to leap into those opportunities because, do you know what? People have ideas all the time. I want to travel here. I think it's amazing you traveled solo. I don't know if I'm brave enough to travel solo.
You'd be fine.
I've flown overseas on my own to get to a conference or to get somewhere or meet someone, but I haven't actually done a solo trip. And I don't know. I actually would worry me. I'd drive myself insane.
But it was.
To be honest with you,
I need to send you because after I finished the trip, I looked back on it. I think I have been told you're very brave, but I was scared. And in the lead up before it happened, especially as more and more people were questioning my own family, I had people in my family that just were like, Alex, this is so stupid. These bus stations are and it was, my partner thought it was the dumbest thing. He was like, I think you're going to get hurt. And I kind of, it's a really funny thing because I'm grateful that people were worried about me. But then I've also had people that said, people take Greyhounds all the time. Like it's probably a class thing that people are worried about you because it's a cheap way of transport that a lot of people do. And, it's a little bit dangerous, but also it's just as dangerous. People have car accidents all the time as well. So, but I was so scared. Especially in the week before. I don't know why. I just imagined all these, imagine I knew I was going to have to wait at bus stations at 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. And I was just imagining all these things. And it's so funny because when I was on that last trip from my aunt's house on the train to the Atlanta airport, and I did have a little bit of a bad situation, I also just thought about all these terrible things that I envisioned. And I think you can take comfort. I've heard this saying that whatever the worst thing you can imagine that could ever happen is, something bad that's going to happen is not going to be what you actually imagine. It's going to be something completely different. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that, you do have to know your own limits. Like, for example, I feel much more confident traveling through southern United States, where I'm from, than like camping by myself in the woods.
Zodiac. The movie Zodiac.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Is that what?
So it's about the real life serial killer, be like the couple in the woods or whatever, and they come and kill them.
Yes. Well, I mean, and have you read Wild by Cheryl Strayed?
Yes.
So that book I find really inspiring, and I think it would be really fascinating to just try to go camping for one night in the woods by myself.
Yeah.
Like and I think that you have to if you're scared about something, see where you can start. Like, I've traveled, I went to Nicaragua for 10 days by myself when I was 30, and that was really pushing and testing it, even though I had like it all organized. I told people I knew, and there was a few scary moments, but like after I did that, it was like it made other things a little bit easier, you know what I mean? And even doing that, I'd already traveled in Mexico with an ex-partner, in Guatemala. Like, I'd done things like I think if you want to do something big and it terrifies you, start small. Like, I think my goal for 2024 is just sleep in the bush by myself in a tent for one night and see if I can do that.
I love that. So, like, even though it's courageous and you're doing courageous things, it's like you start small.
Yeah.
And then just get a bit bigger.
And if you hate it, then be like, all right, maybe I need to do something else.
That wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fine too, Like, and also, I think that bravery comes in many different forms, and many, I really admire. Some people some people get degrees in really fascinating, amazing things. And I have an undergraduate in creative writing. Like, I think that bravery is contextual. There's a lot of different ways that you can explore the world and be brave. You don't have to necessarily travel solo. Like, and some people really love skydiving. That's not for me. I don't think I'd ever do it. And it doesn't mean that, I'm not an adventurer. It's just like you look for the thing that really inspires you personally.
Yeah. I did skydiving.
Did you?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I would never do it again.
Really?
I dry reached all the way up from the absolute fear of it. I was so fearful of doing it.
Yeah.
And then they throw you over the side. Actually, I remember being strapped to the guy, the guy's behind me. I'm strapped to him. And I started dry reaching. He's like, "Are you going to be sick?" And I was like, "I think that I just might stay on the plane, that maybe I'm not going to jump off, and maybe we'll just go and land. We'll just land and we'll get off that way." And he goes, "Right, you've got two choices. You can do this the hard way, or you can do this the fun way. But either way, you're jumping out of this plane."
Are you serious? Oh my God.
And he goes, "So what's it going to be?" And I went, "The fun way."
Was it fun? What happened?
We threw it. I had to close my eyes. I just had to I literally was in an absolute state of panic and fear. And when he said that, he's like, "You're jumping off this plane. That's it. Hard way or the fun way." And he pushes you over, and you're literally sitting on I just had to close my eyes really tight. And then he threw us over, and I have the video. It's hilarious.
I want to see it.
I'll show you the video one day. It's crazy. And I reached a point. At first, I was like hyperventilating because you're free falling, and then you put the parachute up, and then I kind of stopped and I relaxed into it a little bit. But I was like, okay, that's done now. I never need to feel that scared ever again.
But good for you.
Yeah,
good for you. But also, don't do it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
I can't see myself doing that. I think I'm like, oh, that just sounds terrifying and very little. But I mean, maybe.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, at the time, Will Smith did this video with going, it's like, face your fear, and it's all in your head, and blah blah blah, and here's me jumping out a plane, and he makes it look so cool. I'm like, we'll never do that again.
Well, you've done something a lot of people haven't, though, so good for you.
But it was interesting that the instructor, when he said that, he goes, "You have two choices. You can do this the hard way or the fun way. What way do you want to do it?" I'm like, the fun way.
Tears streaming down your face.
Stop vomiting. Oh, my friend.
Hilarious.
Okay, so living adventurously, which you do, often involves embracing spontaneity, which That's you, my
Yeah,
friend. Very
yeah.
spontaneous
Absolutely.
and adventurous. So how do you stay present and open to unexpected opportunities?
Well, and I just think of Wanda, the bus driver. I just think of her, and she said, you've got a really good personality, and I think you're going to make it. And I think, I don't know, the older you get, the more challenges you deal with, the easier it is to become bitter. It's, and I think during the pandemic and just in general, as you get older, life, like people pass away, we struggle with our health, like so many things happen. It's so easy to become bitter. And I find myself becoming bitter sometimes, but I think when I can try to hold on to this kind of curiosity and, curiosity about exciting travel, but also curiosity about the person next to you, like on the bus or in the shops or whatever. I think it's really just important to try it, and it's hard. Like I can understand how cliche this might be sounding to someone who's in a bad spot, but I really think that if you can try to hold on to hope and belief in the power of good people and your own inner strength, there's a lot of great, exciting things you can explore. And also knowing that every situation is different. It's like my passion project is going to be different from your passion project. But if you actually trust yourself, you have agency.
You know, and that is so true. We're talking about travel, solo travel and adventure, starting a music festival. We're talking about some big things there. But I go, being adventurous and courageous is different for everybody. Getting out of that comfort zone is different for everybody.
Yeah.
So it may not be a solo travel or going on big adventures like you do, but for some people it's just, it might be like, do you know what? I'm going to go join the local knitting club.
Yeah.
It might be that.
Absolutely.
And actually just walking through the door to meet some new people, that's a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's having courage around doing that.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, and with that, there's a million different ways to be courageous, but you have to have, belief in yourself and others, and that, that people are on your side. The universe favors positivity.
Yes. Do you know, absolutely. And as you say, start small.
Yes. Start small. Think of the smallest thing you can do and then see how that goes, and then kind of take the next step, Take
the next step and take the next step. I love this conversation.
Me too.
Oh. Okay, my beautiful friend Alex, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. I love hearing about that. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do a solo adventure, greyhounding around the southern states of America, or starting a music festival. I don't know.
You've started a lot of things, Mel. I think you can do it.
Yeah,
maybe. I think you can do it.
But and I love that about you. But as you say, it's like start small. Everybody has courage for their own things and in their own ways, and start small and grow from there. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdoms.
Thanks so much. And I will just shout out there that if you want to read about my experience, I do have a Substack. So I wrote about every single Monday. I wrote about where I was. So I wrote about like getting to Texas and going through, and I have stories about each one. So if you want to check out alexmorriswright.substack.com, you can go back through the archives and hear about my fear and my joy and strangers on buses and all kinds of stuff. So
I love that. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Mel.
Thanks for listening to Hey Soul Sista with Mel Histon. What would help you on your crazy life journey? Email Melissa at thesistercode.com.